Hey guys, Bitter here to tell you about my 5 favorite albums for the month of June. This was a stacked month, and interesting enough, all 5 of these records were released on the same date. I didn't realize that until I started putting this list together. So today I'm not going to go through this chronological order because there's no order. They were all released on June 10th, so here we go. I'm just going to start off with a band that's iconic, and therefore they deserve to be on the top of the list for no other reason than that. And that band is Kreator with Hate Über Alles out June 10th on Nuclear Blast. This is the band's 15th record. They are a thrash metal band, and what an album this is. I absolutely love this record from Kreator. I'm starting to feel like these guys are always moving the bar slightly higher with every single release. You can make the argument for where does this album stand in their discography. I mean, they have a very vast discography, so it's always hard to place an album within that list. It may not be their best record to date, even though every band feels like their latest album is their best record to date, but it's undeniable, one of their best records in a very long time. Solid from start to finish, great sounding record, great vocals, great guitars. The drumming is very powerful on this album. It really packs a punch and it merges really well with the guitar sound in order to create this 1-2 combo that stays very consistent in terms of what it gives to the soundscape, what it gives to the experience from beginning all the way to the end. Nothing that I wasn't expecting from Kreator, but this album really went a little bit over my expectations on how good it is, on the sound, on the experience, on how it feels. Next we have Heart Attack with Negative Sun out June 10th on Atomic Fire Records. This is the band's 3rd full-length studio album. They are a thrash groove metal band, and this was a very interesting record because it kind of came a little bit out of left field for me. I mean, I heard a few of the singles, I liked the singles, but I wasn't sure if this was going to be a band that was going to be able to put consistency within an album from start to end. And they were. This record sounded phenomenal. It didn't have a signature sound per se from the first to the last song. It doesn't follow patterns. It's not a record that feels linear in its processes, in its experience, and how it transports the listener from song to song. So there are a lot of ebbs and flows. There are a lot of caveats throughout this record. There are a lot of different sides of Heart Attack, or how you can create thrash, groove metal, but then add other elements into the mix in order for the genre itself to have a little bit more life, to be a little bit more wide as far as the sound and as far as how it travels. And this record has a little bit of everything like that. But they always kept the album connected. They never really lost track of where they were and where they were going with it. And because of that, I didn't mind that diversity that exists behind the sound itself. I don't mind all the little twists and turns because at the end of the day, it still felt like Heart Attack across each and every single song. I love the sound. I love the vocal performance. I love the range, the ability that they have to really merge the yin and the yang that it is this band with a heavier side, with a more melodic side. Really phenomenal album, an album that has a lot to give, and an album that has incredible playability. Never gets old, doesn't matter how many times you listen to it. Next we have Kardashev with Liminal Rite out June 10th on Metal Blade Records. This is the band's second full-length studio album, and they are a death gaze band. I think they just came up with that genre. I think they made up that genre. So they're a death gaze band, and this is one of the best sophomore albums of the year. I have no doubt. You're going to have to argue in terms of, is it finished first or is it going to finish second, but it's definitely in the top echelon as far as sophomore records are concerned. This album doesn't just take you on a journey, it is a journey. It just completely transforms the way you perceive music, the way you interact with music. Is an album that, like an onion, has multiple layers. And I don't think it matters how many times you listen to it, you're never really going to get all the layers that this album has to give. So that adds to the playability, and it adds to the playability over time because it's never going to get old. It's an album that's always going to have something fresh, something new for the listener. An album that's really interesting from its construction to its sound, to the lyrical content, and to the overall concept. The overall concept has a very deep impact on how you're going to perceive this album, on how you're going to perceive the lyrics, and the soundscape and the atmosphere that they created for it. All the pieces are coming from very different places with very different shapes and sizes, but somehow these guys find a way to kind of merge them all together and show you exactly what everything is all about once you reach that final track. Even though I said it before and I'll say it again, I think I could listen to this album 100 times. I'm still not going to get the full picture of it, regardless of how well I understand all of those moving pieces. Next we have Deathwhite with Grey Everlasting out June 10th on Season of Mist. This is the band's third full-length studio album, and they are a melodic doom metal band. This is their best record to date. The funny thing about this band is that I've said that about every album that they've released. The last album was the best album to date. This album is the best album to date. And I'm going to go on record and say that the next album is probably going to be their best album to that date. So they are a band that keeps getting better and better, better refined, better understanding of their boundaries, how far they're willing to go within those boundaries without changing their DNA, without changing who they are. That, I feel, is very important to them. Their sound, their presence, their DNA needs to stay intact, and I don't think they wanted to change it. But they're willing to broaden it up. They're willing to move the borders around ever so slightly so that they have a slightly bigger footprint to work with, to be more creative, but never losing track of who they are or who they were even in that first record, and the growth and transition that they have shown from album to album. This one is a home run. What a phenomenal sounding album. Those clean vocals are haunting. If you don't get goosebumps when you listen to this album, you're not alive, or you're not listening to it. So this record is definitely a home run for me. One of my favorite albums within that genre of melodic doom or doom metal that I've seen this year. It just has strength across every single parameter. It never gets old. It never gets boring. The songs are phenomenal. They are a journey within themselves, and then the whole album is a journey within the complexity that it offers to the listener. Phenomenal record from start to finish. Last but not least, Windrose Warfront out June 10th on Napalm Records. This is the band's fifth studio album. They are a power metal band, and even though I had some issues with this record as far as the vocal approach or using a lot of backing vocals throughout the entire record, the power, the dynamic fluidity of this album, how engaging it is, how much it wants you to, it wants you in. You want to listen to this album, and when you're listening to this album, you don't want to listen to anything else. This album is extremely welcoming from that perspective. I love this record. It doesn't matter all of the little things that I would have liked to see different, because they are so minuscule in comparison to everything else, that it's so great, that is so phenomenal about this record that you almost forget about them, and you just enjoy the fun ride that this album puts you through. There's not a lot of power metal bands out there, at least in my perspective, releasing albums that are this entertaining, this engaging, and that still have this much power into their power metal. This is one of the few bright spots, one of the few power metal albums that will reach my list, or any list that I make this year, because I just feel like it's a genre that overall is losing a little bit of steam. No pun intended, is losing a little bit of power. So these guys are able to keep that power alive and well, adding their folk elements into the mix, creative as far as the lyrical content is concerned, and then creating bouncing songs that on one hand make you want to dance, and on the other hand make you want to handbang. This band gives you a little bit of both worlds. They give you a little bit of everything. There's no diggy hole on this album, but the album doesn't need it. It's worth for the overall complexity that it offers. It's worth for the overall content that it offers. It doesn't need one song to sell it. Incredible album by Wind Rose. This is it. These are my top 5 albums for the month of June. Let me know what albums made your list. Use the comment section below and hit me up, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.